Mackenzie froze in the leather chair of the executive conference room on the 45th floor of Harrington Tower, her heart slamming against her ribs as the woman across the polished table locked eyes with her. "Miss Ellis, your qualifications are exceptional, but I have a feeling this interview is about to become very personal," Juliana said, her voice smooth yet edged with something deeper. Then with a small knowing smile that shattered Mackenzie's world, she added, "Because we've already met, haven't we? Shadowheart, I'm Jules, and I'm Robert Harrington's daughter." The words hung in the air like smoke from a dying fire, sucking the oxygen from the room. Mackenzie gripped the edge of the table, her knuckles whitening as fragments of late-night chats flooded back, the confessions, the vulnerabilities, the slow-building ache of something that felt like love but could never have a name. 2 months earlier, in the dim glow of her tiny Brooklyn studio, Mackenzie had joined the anonymous LGBT women's chat room, on a whim, searching for anyone who understood the weight of carrying a truth that family had rejected. Her mother had stopped speaking to her the day she came out at 24. Her father had simply changed the locks on the old house in Queens, leaving her to scrape by on freelance marketing gigs and the occasional catering shift. The chat room had been a lifeline, faceless usernames sharing stories of first heartbreaks, hidden dates, and the constant tightrope of living openly yet safely. Jules Unbound had messaged first a simple question about a book they both loved, and from there the conversation stretched into hours every night. They talked about everything from childhood dreams to the fear of never being enough, in a world that demanded perfection from women like them. Juliana had poured out her own quiet desperation, the pressure of being the only child of a Wall Street titan, expected to marry well, produce heirs, and uphold the Harrington legacy, while her true self remained locked away behind boardroom smiles and charity galas. Mackenzie had been the one to call her brave for even showing up in the chat at all. Now here they sat in the gleaming heart of that legacy, and the bravery felt like a cruel joke. Juliana leaned forward, her tailored blazer perfectly pressed, her dark hair swept into an elegant knot. "You never said you were applying here," she whispered, her professional mask cracking just enough for Mackenzie to see the panic beneath. "I didn't know you were you." Mackenzie managed her voice barely above a whisper. The resume on the table between them suddenly felt like evidence in a trial. 27 years old, Brooklyn-born marketing specialist with a portfolio that had caught the eye of Harrington's headhunter. None of it mentioned the woman who had listened to her cry over voice notes at 3 in the morning after a bad date, or the way Jules had once typed, "I wish I could hold you," through the screen. Juliana glanced at the closed door, then back at Mackenzie. "My father doesn't know about any of this. The chat, the feelings, none of it. If he finds out." Her sentence trailed off, but the threat was clear. Robert Harrington built an empire on image and control. A lesbian daughter in a secret relationship with a new hire would be a scandal that could topple board confidence and family alliances. Mackenzie felt the familiar sting of being the outsider, the one whose existence complicated everything. Yet beneath the shock, a spark of defiance ignited. She had fought too hard to build a life after her family turned their backs. This job could mean stability, rent paid on time, maybe even helping her younger sister through college. But the woman across from her was the same one who had made her believe she deserved more than survival. "I won't say anything," Mackenzie said, finally her decision made in that split second. "But I can't pretend this didn't happen." Juliana nodded, once her eyes softening with gratitude and something deeper. The interview continued on autopilot, questions about campaigns and market strategies, but every answer carried double meaning, every glance carried the weight of shared secrets. When it ended, Juliana stood and extended her hand. "Welcome to Harrington, Mackenzie." The touch lingered a fraction too long, sending electricity up Mackenzie's arm. As she left the tower, the city noise swallowed her, but the revelation echoed louder. She had fallen for a stranger online, only to discover the stranger held the keys to her future and her heart. That night in her apartment, Mackenzie reopened the chat log, scrolling through months of messages. The laughter, the late-night support, the tentative admissions of attraction, all now tainted by power and position. She typed a single message to Jules Unbound but deleted it before sending. Tomorrow she would start the job. Tomorrow everything would change. Juliana sat in her corner office overlooking the Hudson, the Manhattan lights blurring through tears she refused to shed. Her father had called earlier, praising her for personally interviewing the top candidate. If only he knew the candidate was the woman who had made her question every carefully constructed wall around her life. The family estate in the Hamptons, the expected engagement to a suitable son of another banking family, the endless charity events where she smiled and played the perfect daughter, none of it felt real anymore. Mackenzie had given her the courage to dream of a different path. And now that path led straight into the boardroom where one wrong move could destroy them both. She closed the chat app, her finger hovering over the block button, but she couldn't do it. Not yet. The price of this connection was already climbing and neither of them had begun to pay it. The following Monday, Mackenzie stepped into the open plan marketing floor on the 38th floor of Harrington Tower, her new employee badge feeling like a brand on her chest. Colleagues smiled and offered coffee, but she could only focus on the glass-walled office at the end of the hall, where Juliana sat reviewing reports. Their first official meeting as boss and employee happened in the break room, an awkward dance of small talk while others milled around. Juliana poured cream into her coffee, her movements precise. "Glad to have you on the team, Ellis," she said loud enough for anyone listening. Later in a private conference call, Juliana dropped the professional tone. "We need to talk after hours." "Not here." They met at a small cafe in the West Village far from the financial district. Mackenzie arrived first, her hands trembling as she ordered 2 lattes. When Juliana walked in wearing jeans and a simple sweater instead of her power suit, she looked younger, more vulnerable. "I never meant for this to happen," Juliana said, sliding into the booth across from her. "The chat was supposed to be safe, anonymous." Mackenzie nodded, stirring her drink. "But it wasn't just chat for me." "It wasn't for me either." Their hands brushed, reaching for sugar packets, and neither pulled away. For the first time they spoke without screens, the words raw and unfiltered. Juliana described growing up in a mansion where love was measured by stock options and social standing, her mother long gone, her father molding her into the heir he needed. Mackenzie shared the night her parents changed the locks, the months of couch surfing, the slow rebuild of self-worth through therapy and chosen family. Hours passed, the cafe emptying around them. When they finally stepped outside into the cool night air, Juliana reached for Mackenzie's hand, pulling her into the shadow of a brownstone. "I can't stop thinking about you," she whispered. "But if anyone finds out?" Mackenzie silenced her with a gentle finger to her lips. "Then we don't let them." Their first kiss was tentative, soft like the first rain after drought. No fireworks, just the quiet certainty that this was real and worth protecting. Back at work, the days blurred into strategy sessions and team lunches. Mackenzie excelled, her ideas landing a major campaign that impressed the board. Juliana praised her publicly, but in stolen moments in the elevator or empty stairwells their connection deepened. One evening after a late strategy meeting, Juliana invited her to a quiet dinner at her apartment overlooking Central Park. "No one will know," she promised. Inside the sleek modern space, Mackenzie saw the real Juliana, photos of college trips hidden in drawers, art that spoke of passion rather than prestige. They talked until midnight, then curled on the couch watching an old movie, hands intertwined. The power imbalance gnawed at Mackenzie though. She was the new hire, dependent on this job for survival, while Juliana could walk away with family, money, and connections. "Is this fair?" Mackenzie asked one night, her head on Juliana's shoulder. "You're my boss." Juliana pulled back, her eyes serious. "I would never use that against you. If it feels wrong, we stop." But neither wanted to stop. The secret fueled them, stolen lunches in Juliana's car, drives upstate on weekends where they could hold hands openly. Mackenzie introduced her to her small circle of friends who warned her about the risks. "You're playing with fire," one said. Juliana introduced Mackenzie to none of her world, afraid of the questions. The first crack appeared when Robert Harrington summoned his daughter to the family estate for a weekend. He had lined up a dinner with the son of a rival firm, a merger prospect wrapped in romance. Juliana went because refusing would raise suspicions, but she texted Mackenzie every hour, "I miss you, this isn't me." When she returned, her eyes were haunted. "He keeps pushing marriage like it's a business deal." I smiled and nodded, but inside I was screaming for you. Mackenzie held her close, feeling the weight of the choice Juliana carried. That night Mackenzie lay awake wondering how long they could balance the scales before one side tipped. The romance was beautiful, but the price was already showing in sleepless nights and careful lies. Juliana paid by burying her truth deeper, Mackenzie by swallowing her pride every time she called her boss ma'am in meetings. Yet the connection held them together, a fragile bridge over an ocean of expectations. Weeks turned into months, and the secret relationship settled into a careful rhythm. Mackenzie thrived at Harrington, her campaign boosted quarterly numbers, earning her a small bonus that eased the rent pressure. Juliana advocated for her behind the scenes, always careful to keep distance in public. At the office they were professional colleagues exchanging nods in hallways. After hours they were everything to each other. One Friday Juliana surprised Mackenzie with tickets to a Broadway show. They sat in the dark theater, hands linked beneath the program, the music swelling around them. For those hours the world outside vanished. But reality crashed back when a homophobic comment from a senior account manager reached Mackenzie's ears in the break room. "Ellis, you sure you're not too soft for this cutthroat game?" the man sneered, not knowing she could hear. She confronted him calmly, her voice steady. "Soft gets results while bigotry gets lawsuits." The man backed down, but the encounter left her shaken, reminding her how fragile her position remained. Juliana heard about it later and pulled strings to have him reassigned. "You didn't have to do that," Mackenzie said later that night in Juliana's apartment. "I can fight my own battles." "I know, but I can't stand seeing you hurt." The gesture warmed Mackenzie, but also highlighted the power gap. Juliana could fix problems with a phone call while Mackenzie had to navigate every slight carefully. Tension escalated when Robert Harrington announced a company-wide gala at the family estate in the Hamptons. All key staff were expected, including new talents like Mackenzie. Juliana panicked in private. "You can't go as my date, but if you don't attend it looks suspicious." Mackenzie agreed to go as a regular employee, but the night tested them. At the glittering event under crystal chandeliers, Robert introduced Juliana to the same eligible bachelor from before. Mackenzie watched from across the room as her girlfriend smiled and laughed at his jokes, her posture perfect, the dutiful daughter. Jealousy twisted in Mackenzie's gut, not because she doubted Juliana's love, but because she saw the ease with which Juliana slipped into that role. Later, in a quiet corner of the garden, Juliana found her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "It's all an act." Mackenzie nodded, but the words felt hollow. When they stole a moment alone behind the pool house, their kiss was desperate, urgent. "We can't keep doing this like this," Mackenzie said, pulling away. "Hiding is eating me alive." Juliana cupped her face. "I'm trying to find a way out, but my father. He's not just my dad, he's the man who can destroy everything with one call." The close call came when a colleague almost caught them leaving the gala together. Juliana had to fabricate a story about discussing campaign metrics in the car. The lie sat heavy between them on the drive back to the city. Back in the apartment, Mackenzie broke down for the first time. "I love you, but I don't know if love is enough when it costs this much." Juliana held her through the tears, her own eyes wet. "I love you too, and am terrified of what that means for both of us." That weekend they spent every moment together, walking in Central Park, talking about futures that seemed impossible. Juliana shared her dream of starting her own nonprofit, focused on LGBT youth support away from her father's shadow. Mackenzie spoke of building a life where she didn't have to prove her worth every day. The conversations strengthened them, but also exposed the cracks. Societal prejudice wasn't abstract, it was the sidelong glances at restaurants, the fear of being outed at work, the constant calculation of risk. Juliana paid by distancing herself from old friends who asked too many questions about her single status. Mackenzie paid by turning down invitations from her own community events, afraid of slipping up. Yet the bond deepened with every shared vulnerability, every decision to choose each other despite the cost. The rising pressure only made their stolen moments sweeter, but both knew the storm was gathering. The leak happened on a Tuesday morning. An anonymous email hit the company servers with screenshots from the old chatroom conversations between Shadowheart and Jules Unbound. No names, but enough details to point fingers. Whispers spread through the marketing floor. "Someone is involved with the boss's daughter," the rumors claimed. Juliana called Mackenzie into her office immediately, her face pale. "My father knows something is off. He demanded a meeting." Mackenzie felt the floor drop away. "This is my fault, I should have been more careful." "No, we both chose this." In the executive suite, Robert Harrington loomed behind his massive desk, his silver hair and stern gaze making the room feel smaller. "Juliana, I raised you better than this," he said without preamble. Fraternizing with staff, especially in that way. The word lesbian hung unspoken but heavy. Juliana stood tall. "Dad, this isn't just some fling. I care about her." Robert laughed bitterly. "Care doesn't build empires. If this gets out, the board will question your judgment, your fitness to lead. And her," he pointed at Mackenzie, who had been summoned too. "She will be gone by lunch." Mackenzie stepped forward, her voice steady despite the fear. "Sir, I earned this job on merit. My personal life has nothing to do with my performance." Robert leaned back. In my world everything is connected. Juliana, you have until the end of the week to end this or I will end both your careers. The betrayal came that night when Juliana hesitated during a heated argument in her apartment. Maybe we should cool it for a while, she suggested, just until things settle. Mackenzie stared at her, the woman she loved suddenly seeming like a stranger. Cool it so I become your secret again while you play the perfect daughter. You said you were done hiding. Juliana reached for her but Mackenzie stepped back. The pain in her eyes mirrored the ache in Mackenzie's chest. I can't lose everything, Mackenzie. The company, the family, it's all I have. You have me, Mackenzie whispered. But it wasn't enough in that moment. Juliana chose silence over defense and Mackenzie walked out the door, her heart fracturing. The next days were hell. Mackenzie threw herself into work, avoiding eye contact with Juliana in meetings. Colleagues sensed the tension, some offering pitying looks, others avoiding her altogether. She considered quitting, the thought of starting over terrifying but necessary. Her savings were thin, the job had been a lifeline. Juliana meanwhile faced her father daily, the pressure mounting. He introduced her to more suitable matches, paraded her at events. Each smile she forced cost her a piece of herself. A major confrontation exploded at the office after hours. Mackenzie confronted Juliana in the empty conference room. You promised we would face this together. Instead you let him treat me like a problem to erase. Juliana slammed her hand on the table. You think this is easy for me? Every decision I make someone pays. If I choose you I lose my inheritance, my place here. If I choose them I lose you. Mackenzie felt the words like blows. Then maybe we were never meant to last. She turned to leave but Juliana grabbed her arm. Don't go. Please. The touch broke something open and they clung to each other, crying for the future they might never have. But the damage was done. Mackenzie decided to accept a transfer to a smaller branch in Chicago, the offer coming through HR as a quiet way out. Juliana learned of it too late and the betrayal felt mutual now. They had both sacrificed pieces of their integrity to protect what they loved and the cost was their trust. The relationship hung by a thread, frayed and bleeding but still there. The transfer papers sat on Mackenzie's desk unsigned. Chicago meant safety, distance from the chaos, but also leaving the woman who had become her everything. Juliana spent sleepless nights pacing her apartment, replaying every choice. The moral weight pressed on both of them. Was hiding love a sin, or was destroying a family legacy the greater wrong? At work the atmosphere grew toxic. A board member cornered Juliana, demanding assurance that personal matters wouldn't affect company image. She lied smoothly but the lie tasted like ash. Mackenzie faced subtle sabotage, her projects reassigned, her ideas questioned. She fought back, documenting everything, ready to escalate if needed. One evening Juliana showed up at Mackenzie's apartment unannounced, rain soaking her coat. I can't do this without you, she said, collapsing into Mackenzie's arms. My father threatened to cut me off completely. No money, no contacts. Mackenzie held her tight. Then choose us. We can build something new together. But Juliana pulled away, her eyes tormented. It's not that simple. People depend on me, employees, charities, my name carries weight. Walking away would hurt so many. Mackenzie felt the familiar fracture widen. So my happiness is the price for everyone else's. The argument stretched into the night, accusations flying, decisions weighed. Juliana admitted she had briefly considered marrying the suitor to buy time. Mackenzie called it betrayal and walked to the window, staring at the city lights. They made love that night for the first time, not with passion but with desperation, as if touching could erase the chasm. Afterward, lying in tangled sheets, Juliana whispered, I don't know who I am without this life. Mackenzie replied, and I don't know who I am if I keep waiting for you to decide. The turning point came at a company retreat in the Catskills. Forced proximity broke the stalemate. During a team hike, Juliana pulled Mackenzie aside on a secluded trail. I told my father no, she said breathlessly. I told him I love you, and if he can't accept it he can find another heir. The relief flooded Mackenzie, but it was short-lived. Robert had responded by freezing some of Juliana's accounts and leaking rumors to the press about family discord. Back in the city the backlash hit hard. Tabloids hinted at scandal. Juliana lost a major sponsorship deal. Mackenzie stood by her through the storm, attending quiet dinners, defending her in private. Yet the toll showed. Juliana grew distant, her smiles forced. Mackenzie felt the guilt of being the reason for the upheaval. Inner conflicts raged. Mackenzie questioned if her demand for openness was selfish given the real consequences. Juliana wrestled with whether true love meant abandoning duty. They attended couples counseling in secret, the therapist helping them name the sacrifices. "You both paid with pieces of your identity," she said. "Now decide what remains." A final moral dilemma arose when Robert offered a deal. End the relationship quietly and Juliana keeps her position. Mackenzie gets a promotion and bonus. Juliana considered it for one terrible night before rejecting it. But the consideration itself wounded Mackenzie deeply. "I almost lost you to a bribe," she said. The trust they rebuilt cracked again. Through tears and long talks they chose to fight together, moving in secretly to Mackenzie's apartment, planning a future outside the Harrington shadow. The awakening was painful but real, both women emerging stronger yet scarred. The price had been high, friendships strained, careers stalled, but their love survived the test. The final confrontation unfolded at the annual Harrington shareholder meeting in a packed ballroom downtown. Juliana stood at the podium delivering her report, her voice steady despite the whispers. Mackenzie sat in the back row, anonymous among staff, her heart pounding. Robert watched from the front row, his face a mask of disapproval. After the presentation, Juliana stepped down and walked straight to Mackenzie in full view of everyone. "This is the woman I love," she announced, her words echoing through the microphone still live. "And if loving her means stepping away from all this, then so be it." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Robert rose, his face red. "You're throwing away everything." Juliana met his gaze. "No, Dad, I'm finally choosing everything that matters." Security escorted them out, but the damage was done. Headlines exploded the next day. Harrington heiress defies family for love. Offers poured in for Juliana, new ventures, nonprofits seeking her voice. Mackenzie kept her job, but requested a lateral move to avoid conflict. They moved into a modest apartment in Queens, far from the towers, rebuilding slowly. Juliana started consulting for LGBT causes, her skills translating to real change. Mackenzie supported her through the adjustment, the loss of luxury, the stares on the street. The betrayals and sacrifices had reshaped them both. Juliana learned humility, Mackenzie learned boundaries. Their love grew quieter, deeper, rooted in choice rather than secrecy. Months later, sitting on their tiny balcony overlooking the neighborhood park, Juliana took Mackenzie's hand. "I paid the price, but I gained myself." Mackenzie smiled through tears. "And I gained a partner who finally chose us." The city hummed below, indifferent to their story, but they had carved a space where truth could breathe. In the quiet aftermath, as the city lights blurred through the rain-streaked window, one question lingered like an accusation. Was Juliana's decision to protect her family's empire at the cost of their love the only responsible choice? Or did Mackenzie have every right to walk away from a relationship built on secrets and unequal power?